the line with us is Farron Cousins, co-host of Ring of Fire Radio, executive editor of the Trial Lawyers magazine, the website ringoffireradio.com. Farron, welcome back to the program.
Tom, thanks for having me. How you doing today?
I'm well. It's great to see you and great to have you with us. I know we're going to talk about climate action being the profitable option and get into this, but before we do, I had a caller to the program earlier who brought something to my attention that I want to bring to your attention, if I may, and tell me if you already know this. I did not, and I'm just astonished. You're familiar with the North Carolina HB2? The law that bans trans people from using bathrooms.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're familiar with that? Did you know? And like I said, I did not know that section. This is section 2 of the law. It says the short title of it and legislative purpose. Local governments preempted. The provisions of this article supersede and preempt any ordinance, regulation, resolution, or policy adopted or imposed by a unit of local government or other political subdivision of the state that regulates or imposes any requirement upon an employer pertaining to compensation of employees, such as the wage level of employees, hours of labor, payment of earned wages, benefits, leave, or well-being of minors in the workplace. In other words, the whole point of this was not to trash trans people. The whole point of this was to make it illegal for any town or county in North Carolina to raise their minimum wage or put any kind of workplace protection laws into place. But they promoted it as an anti-trans bill by way, to get all the hysteria around that, when actually this was, just a classic Koch brothers, Alex slip it in the back door thing.
Yeah, this really is amazing. And that is how the Republican Party operates. They get people drummed up on the social issues, get them to come out in droves to support those items. And then at the same time, they shove the knife in their back and they say, well, guess what? You also just voted against ever getting a raise. You voted against us having to pay you overtime or limit your hours or protect children in the workplace.
Right.
This is too common.
They also inserted court stripping. This article does not create and shall not be construed to create or support a statutory or common law privilege, private right of action, and no person may bring any civil action based upon the public policy expressed herein. You cannot sue them. They inserted court stripping into it as well. This is. I'm going to write a piece about this afternoon, but I wanted to give you a heads up because this is right up Ring of Fire's alley. So I just,
absolutely,
yeah. Sorry to do it on the air here like this, but I thought it was just fascinating, and I want more people to know about it. That this HB2 is really a Koch brothers Trojan horse, to quote Dan on my message board. Anyhow, let's talk about climate action and making that the profitable option. You have a frame or a take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. For the longest time, the Republicans, in talking point terms, have been winning the climate debate. And it's usually not just with outright denial. We know now, plenty of polls show us, majority of Democrats, Republicans, and independents, everybody understands that the science is accurate and that climate change is real, humans are causing it, and we need to act. But unfortunately, it remains low on the priority list because you still have a ton of people out there who think that if we act on climate change, it's going to decimate the economy. It's going to kill jobs. It's going to be, too expensive to do anything because that's what the fossil fuel industry funded politicians keep telling us. But, so they're using economics against the environmental movement. And so I think it's time for the environmental movement to reframe the issue from one of, destruction and global catastrophe to one of economics to help get more action on this. Because the American public will always, most of the time, I should say, they're going to vote with their pocketbooks. And when you're talking about sea level rise and destruction, that becomes this huge concept that's overwhelming. So when we break it down into local economics, that's when we can have more impact by appealing directly to a community and saying, look, if we shut down this coal plant to reduce emissions, the number of jobs created from the renewable energy plant that we create here instead is going to be double what you already had. We're going to put more people to work. They're going to be better paying jobs. Those jobs then are going to pay local taxes. The economy overall does better. It's basically trickle down, but in reverse.
Yeah.
You get more jobs, you get more people spending money, the economy does better and everything grows. And when people understand it in those terms, they are more likely to support those efforts. I mean, we have seen it all across this country, from the Pacific Northwest, where this Pacific Coast Action Plan on Climate and Energy has already saved $1 trillion or up to $1 trillion in the next few years. That's 3 states, California, Washington, Oregon. They're going to save $1 trillion over the next few years. Citibank released a report last year saying that climate action in the United States alone is going to save us a total of $2 trillion in just a few years. The Northeast, this 9-state climate pact, has already saved $1.3 billion that gets funneled right back into those 9-state economies. So we really have to think about our framing. And those of us who follow the issue, I know you agree, we understand that this is a big deal and it is a massive concept to understand. And we are talking about, huge destruction on a global scale. Mm-hmm. But the average voter, the average person, they can't necessarily comprehend that, or they don't want to, or they don't have time to, because maybe a flood, in India doesn't affect a small town in Iowa.
Yeah.
But the pocketbook issues do.
I believe both Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton have been pitching this on the campaign trail, that a green revolution will actually increase employment, and particularly in coal country, in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, those areas, parts of Ohio, where the Republicans are saying, the Democrats want to come in and just destroy your existence. The Democrats are going in and saying, if we transition away from coal, we can go to something really, really profitable. And, people are a little skeptical because they kind of heard that about NAFTA. We need to highlight the success stories, don't we, Farron?
We absolutely do. But at the same time, I'm glad you brought up NAFTA, because we have to tie environmental issues back into bad policy. I mean, look at what NAFTA, and you and I spoke about this briefly recently, what NAFTA did just to the state of Michigan. 250,000 jobs lost, 60,000 manufacturing plants in the state of Michigan shut down as a result of NAFTA.
Wow.
So what happens? The state loses a ton of money. They have to cut back somewhere, and the first thing to go, it's always environmental protections. And that's why they had no money to repair the infrastructure. They tried to save money by switching the water from Flint from Detroit to the river, and it has poisoned countless people. And that is an environmental economic issue. And it's happening all over this country. We have 2,000 other water supplies that are facing the same abundance of lead at dangerous levels because there's no money to repair the infrastructure. So it's this great irony that we have here. Acting on environmental issues, switching to clean energy, abating climate change, fighting air pollution, those things create jobs and generate revenue. However, when there's not revenue, the first thing to get cut is environmental protection. So we're almost losing twice as much money when we cut those services, and nobody seems to, really get that.
Right.
The argument is not being made enough, and it needs to, because climate change is directly linked to the economy, both positive and negative.
Sure. And in Scotland, they've really figured this out. I mean, they just shut down their last coal-fired power plant, and they're going to be 100% renewable by 2020. That's, and there's a consensus across the country to do that.
Right.
Big step.
And it's because the technology does exist.
Oh, yeah. They're pulling enormous amounts of power from wind there. We can do that. I mean, we've got wind in the United States. we're the Saudi Arabia of solar. I mean, look at the American Southwest or the American South, period. Farron Cousins, co-host of Ring of Fire Radio, the executive editor of the Trial Lawyers magazine, ringofireradio.com. You can tweet him at Farron Balanced, FARRONBALANCED, or at Ring of Fire Radio. Farron, always great having you on. Thanks so much for dropping by.
Thank you very much, Tom.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.